Hello, welcome back to Dota 101. Today I'm going to talk about a couple different things. I'm going to talk about some laning, what that looks like for core and support, mainly in the side lanes, but the mid lanes also just pretty much the same thing as a core lane. I'm going to talk about some etiquette and some common mistakes that people make for both core and support roles. So to get started, the first thing I want to hit on is the etiquette. Just want to say that this is something that sounds conceptually simple, but is actually very impactful, and it's a really important piece of advice. Some of the most difficult to follow sometimes, but still really important that you try to follow it, and that is just to be good mannered. Now, I understand that this can be really difficult for certain types of people. I am one of those people. I really struggle with it myself, but I'm being 100% genuine here when I tell you that this is some of the most impactful advice that I can and will ever give you, is just to really legitimately try to be PMA, focus on your own game, don't be rude to other people. The one thing you got to remember is that you're only ever going to be able to control your own hero, and all the time that you spend focused on your teammates' mistakes, or flaming them, or defending yourself from some other toxic person flaming you, is time that you're wasting that you could have been using to improve. I know firsthand that this can be something that's really difficult to deal with, but I want you to know right now that if you're here watching this video right now, putting in a conscious effort at trying to improve, that you can overcome this. It's the same type of thing. You just got to put in that conscious effort and keep trying. Alright, with that said, we're going to move on to these games that I played against bots, showing you a little bit of what core and support gameplay looks like in the side lanes. Now, I want it to be noted that if you're playing against real people, these games are going to look a little bit different. They're going to be a lot more aggressive than these bots are. These are just the easy bots. I just kind of want to show you what it looks like when you're standing in a lane, doing the lane thing. This is mostly if you're new to the MOBA genre, you're not really familiar with how this sort of game works. If you got some previous Dota experience, or you're coming from another MOBA or a similar type of game, then probably don't need to see this, but for those that need it, here it is. Now, the lane is an incredibly complex and incredibly important part of the game. The reason this stage of the game is so important and why you really need to practice it and learn it really good is because every game has a laning phase, but not every game goes to 60 minutes. So looking at the core gameplay here, your main objective in the lane is to last hit the enemy creeps, and it's pretty much as it sounds, just landing the killing blow on these little enemy creeps in lane. They're going to give you some gold and some experience. While you're doing this, you're going to be harassed by the enemy team, and you're possibly even going to have to deal with enemies coming from other lanes to try and kill you. That's known as ganking. To help you with the lane, you want to make sure you buy some good starting items with your 600 gold that you start out with. Something that every single hero needs is regen, which is going to be tangos, and then you also want to have some stats going into the lane. By stats, I mean items like Iron Branch or Circlet, things that are going to give you some all stats and some of your primary attribute. This is because you're going to be attacking the enemy a lot, and they're going to be attacking you a lot, so you want lots of HP, you want lots of armor, health regen, attack damage. All these things are going to make your life a lot easier in lane if you have them. Another thing that's important to mention is spells. So in lane, you don't really want to use spells to kill creeps, an exception being for the one range creep that comes in every lane. Oftentimes it can be a good move to use a nuke spell or a spell that does instant damage to secure the last hit on that range creep, because it is the highest value creep in the wave. Now each hero is unique and they all have different spells that work differently, so I'm going to leave it to you to figure out how to best use each spell, but generally it's going to be something to do with fighting. Other things to note when you're playing core is that 3 minutes a lotus spawns, your support's going to want to go and grab that for you while you hit creeps. However, it's still important that you fight for this thing. You don't want the enemies to get it. It's a very valuable objective. Speaking about playing with your support, another important part of the lane is looking at where your support is, what they're doing, and trying to play with them. What I mean by that is pretty much just keeping an eye out for where they're at and seeing when they're trying to take fights. You do not want your support taking a fight that is 2-on-1. The main reason you care about that as a selfish core is that if they die, you will now be taking a 2v1 in the lane, which you do not want. You will die. Other than that, do your best to get as many lessons as you can and try to deny the enemy creeps when you can by using the attack move command, which you can bind in settings. Once you feel like it's too dangerous to stay in your lane, go ahead and move to the jungle and continue farming until you are powerful enough to make movements on the map. Alrighty, next up I'm going to be talking to you a bit about the support role on the side lanes. Now this one is going to be less applicable to the mid, but it still has important elements that you need to pay attention to. Primarily that's going to be keeping track of and participating in team objectives. Now, looking at the items, just like for the core role, you need to have regen, and it's really good for you to have stats. Sometimes there are specific heroes that have weird item builds where they choose to not buy stats early on, but ideally you want to have some stats coming into lane. You do not want to be the super squishy support that shows up with regen and wards or like boots of speed, and then you just get punched to death to die, and the boots of speed did nothing for you. Secondly, you want to be taking advantage of wards and blood grenades. As you can see right there, I put a sentry ward in the hard camp. This is going to block that hard camp from spawning. A big part of playing support is going to be fighting over the 2 jungle camps that are next to the lane. This is because later on, when we're a little bit more experienced, we're going to start taking advantage of stacking and pulling to manipulate lane equilibrium, which is just pretty much where the creep wave is standing at while they're fighting. So right here, they're really close to our tower in a really safe position, and if they were in a bad position, we could use those jungle camps to fight our creeps to move our creep wave to a more safe spot like they're at right now. We'll cover that more in depth a little bit later, so don't worry about it too much right now. On the other hand, blood grenades provide a small amount of damage and slow, and they're going to help you to get some good trades. You're going to get some good damage on the enemy heroes. Sometimes it'll even lead to a kill. Now as for actually playing the lane, it's going to be really similar to core, but instead of last hitting the enemy creeps, we want to last hit our creeps. This is denying. Same thing like I was talking about for core, you use the attack move command, which you bind in settings, and then you click on your own creep when they get below half health. If you score the last hit on your own creep, that will be a deny, and it will deny the enemy from getting the last hit gold and some of the experience. Another part of playing support is going to be harassing the enemy. So we want to put pressure on the enemies by using our auto attack to deal damage to them, like right here. We want them to be scared of playing here if possible, and we want to make the lane safe for our core. Your ability to do this will vary largely based on the hero picks, so what kind of lane you have. Sometimes you'll just be in a situation where you are significantly weaker than the enemy offlane and you will not really be able to get much harass out on the enemy. This is something that comes with experience, so don't try and worry too much about it at the start. Just get out there and try and hit people and see what they do back, and you'll eventually learn when you can and cannot be aggressive. Now, as you see here, I was getting shot by a range creep. It's important to note too that if you are standing near the creep wave and you start attacking enemy heroes, the creeps will come to their aid and they will start shooting you, and the creeps deal a lot of damage early game. So try to avoid getting hit by the enemy creeps in the lane if possible. As you can see here, as we walk a little bit further down the lane, we're getting close to the enemy tower, which is denoted by that red ring on the ground. See, my teammate walks into the tower range and is going to start getting pelted by tower shots and eventually die. Don't be like that guy. Towers are scary, they will kill you, especially early game. So just avoid walking into tower range when possible. Alright, the next super big important thing is the lotus. You can see it's about to be 3 minutes. Every 3 minutes a lotus spawns on a lotus pool on the side. You need to get this every 3 minutes. It is super important. Really valuable item. A lot of people forget it, so if you choose to be the one that does not forget it, it will help you win your lanes and your games. So try to be that guy. With that said, you do not have to get it, so if the enemy team comes to try and fight you there at the lotus pool and you know you're not going to be able to sit there the whole time to collect it, just run away. It is not worth dying for. For core mistakes, the 3 things that I want you to improve on if you are a core player and low MR. Number 1, getting the lotus at 3 minutes. Try and get the lotus every single lane, or help with it, or at least be ready and anticipate it coming up even if you can't get it. Just getting that timing down and internalizing it is really important. The second thing is staying too long in your lane and dying. When the game starts getting on, it starts getting near that 5-minute mark when the mid laners are going to be hitting their 6 timing and it turns nighttime. You want to start being really cautious about staying in lane. Constantly be evaluating the power level of the enemy offlane duo. And if you feel like you're in a spot where you're just super worried about them running at you under your tower and killing you, just leave. Go jungle or go to the opposite lane and try and take the lane farm from your offlaner. On the other hand, if you're an offlane player and this happens to you or a safe lane comes to your lane, let them have the farm and try and find another place to take farm. It's your job as the offlaner to soak up the hard farm on the map and play in difficult situations while your pause 1 gets big. Another really good indicator that it's a time to leave is that you die. If you get run down in your lane and you felt pretty powerless to stop it, do not go back. It's usually a good sign that you should not be playing there anymore. It's called the dead lane theory. Well, not actually, but we can get into that more a little bit later. The third thing as a core that people screw up often in low MMR is forgetting about objectives or not participating in them. Namely, Roshan and Tormentor. If you feel like you've got a hold of the other 2 mistakes pretty well, or if you just play games and you feel like you're having a hard time closing them out, you feel like you get a good lane but you can never finish the game from a winning position, try and focus on this one. The same with the lotus, be looking at the time for the 20 minutes, try and coordinate with your team to go and take that Tormentor. Otherwise, when you start to feel strong and you have control of the map, try and get out and take the Roshan, get that Aegis of the Immortal, and then go and push high ground before you die without it and lose the game. Playing core is a lot about minimizing the amount of mistakes that you make, so if you can get these 3 things down, then you'll be doing a great job and you'll surely be on your way up in MMR. For support mistakes, these are going to be really similar to the mistakes that cores make because they are just super impactful pieces of gameplay that you really need to get down. First one that I see all the time at low MR is forgetting about lotus and forgetting about wisdom shrines. So every 3 minutes, starting at minute 3, a lotus will spawn in the lotus pool, and you want to, for as long as you remain in the lane, try and pick that lotus up as soon as it spawns. Same thing for the wisdom shrine, except every 7 minutes, starting at 7 minutes, the wisdom shrine will activate and it will give you and one other person on your team an XP boost, and you need to be there to take that or fight for it. As you start climbing the ranks, the wisdom shrine will become a really big objective and you'll start to see more people come and try and fight over it, so that just goes to show how important these objectives are. When you're thinking about objectives too, remember that it's not just the fact that you're getting the item, it's also that you're denying it to the enemy. Because you have to remember that you're constantly playing this game of your net worth and your advantages versus the enemy. The next big mistake that I see a lot of support players making is just not using support consumables enough. This is specifically Observer and Sentry Wards, Smoke of Deceit, and Dust of Appearance. If you want to be a support player and you feel that you struggle with this, try and make it your goal to never let the shop hit max stock on Observer or Sentry Wards ever. So if you see a 3 or a 4 on the Observer Wards, start buying them, and if you see a 7 or 8 on Sentries, start buying them. The third mistake, and this is a big one for support players, is having a passive playstyle and just generally not trying to be active and do things in the game. So I know this one sounds kind of vague, but what I want you to think about here is making plays where you're going for objectives or trying to set up kills. Just like for core players, support players also oftentimes just forget about objectives like Roshan and Tormentor. And there's a lot of times where I see low MR players, when it starts getting further into the game, they get past lane stage, they don't know what to do, and they'll go jungle or they'll just sit somewhere and do nothing. If you find yourself struggling with this, try and look at the timers, so what the game time is, and see what's about to spawn, if there's some lotuses that you're nearby to, if there's a wisdom shrine about to come up, if the tormentor's about to spawn. Try and go collect those things, or make calls to your teammates. You try and communicate with your team. It's really important for some of these. You can't do them alone, all of them. And set up to take objectives like Roshan and Tormentor. Other things you can do in your downtime are placing wards, observer wards, and de-warding enemy wards using your sentries, or putting down defensive sentry wards like in your triangle so that invisible heroes can't come and kill you. And then another thing that's really cool that you can do as a support player is identifying where your team's playing, and if you notice someone's playing in an area that looks kind of dangerous, you can sit behind them outside of vision and just wait for somebody to come attack them and help them escape, or possibly turn that around into a kill on an enemy. There are a shockingly high number of things you can do as a support player that might not seem super obvious when you start playing it, so try and get creative, look at what other people are doing. If they're like going mid, getting runes at 6 minutes, or smoking to place deep wards so they can set up ganks later. Find something to do that's going to create a benefit for your team. Bonus tip for both core and support players is to buy more regen. As soon as you eat that first tango in lane, go ahead and shift queue up another set of tangos, and try to have those tangos to you on the courier by the time that you eat your second tango. That's everything for this video. Quick recap: if you're laning as a core, you want to get as many last hits on enemy creeps as possible. You want to fight with your support, and you want to contest the lotus when it spawns at 3 minutes. When you're laning as a support, you want to deny friendly creeps, harass enemy heroes, and you also want to contest the healing lotus at 3 minutes. The common mistakes that cores make are not contesting the healing lotus at 3 minutes, staying too long in their lanes and dying unnecessarily, and not taking objectives. The mistakes that support players make are not contesting the healing lotus and the wisdom shrines at 3 minutes and 7 minutes respectively, not using support consumables enough like wards, smokes, and dusts, and playing too passively, which is spending time idling or jungling when you could be doing something that benefits your team. Regardless of your role, make sure you buy more regen, and remember to keep it PMA, keep it BSJ.